Fellas, AC here. Welcome to the 200th episode. Wonderful, isn't it? Now, 2.5 years ago, if you had told me that I'll be doing 200 episodes on YouTube, I would have said you're joking. And yet, after 2.5 years, we've reached this huge milestone. And thank you for being there for me. A lot of you have supported me wholeheartedly. Your comments are just from the heart, There's nothing superficial about your comments. I enjoy reading each and every one of your comments, and the support is just phenomenal. So it keeps me encouraged to do more and more and more. So I thought I'll choose something special for the 200th episode. Now, I happen to like fougères quite a lot, and I quite like masculine fragrances because I think that's my personality. I don't like sweet fragrances too much. Hence, I thought I'll do my top 10 fougères. Now, I could have done top 20 or even top 30. But barbershop fragrances are a good majority of my collection. And it's been requested by a lot of you subscribers. So I thought I'll do the first part and then I'll do another one later on. So, in terms of fougères or barbershop, let me just give a little bit of sort of text. Now, fougères is basically a category which is an extension of chypre. And fougères were basically created solely for men. And the first fragrance made for men, artificial fragrance made for men, was by Houbigant, and it was called Fougère Royale. Now, this fragrance, fougère, stands for the French word of fern. And fern, incidentally, has no smell. But this is just an imagination of perfumers to create a category or classification called fougère, dedicated to men. Obviously, things have changed. There are fougères for women now as well. Now, what is a fougère? Fougère basically is a green scent. But barbershop is a type of fougère which uses the fougère structure, but it also has this mentholic, lemony smell, which is sort of synonymous with visiting a barbershop. If old-fashioned barbershop, if you go to a barbershop and get a haircut, you'll probably get some sort of a spray which has got this mentally quality, which has got this fresh, zesty quality. And that's why certain types of fougère fragrances, excuse me, I've got a bit of a bad throat today. Certain type of fougère fragrances are called barbershop fragrances. Not all fougères are barbershop, by the way. So, let's start this list with number 10 rather, which is an old-fashioned fougère. I've reviewed this one, and it is by Hermes, and it's called Equipage. This was released back in the 60s, I believe. And this is a proper pine, oak moss, leather carnation fragrance. There is no leather listed in the notes breakdown, but I get a distinct leather, and that too very birchy, not smoky, but birchy leather. This is a proper barbershop. You have to be able to appreciate 70s fragrances to be able to like this. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy this. And I've done a review of this one. Check it out. Recently, there was a fragrance which has been getting a lot of praise, and it's by Nicolai, and it's called New York Intense, which is again a barbershop fragrance. And this one reminds me of the dry down of Nicolai's New York Intense. Bad throat, sorry. So you can try this one, or you can try Nicolai in New York Intense, which is probably 3 times the price of Equipage. So that's my first one. It's a proper old-fashioned barbershop fragrance. I enjoy it because there are some days when I feel like wearing something which is synonymous with masculinity and proper, unabashed, unapologetic masculine. That's what it is. The next on the list is another fragrance which I have reviewed, and it's again a vintage and again a very well-known fragrance, Pacco Rabanne Pour Homme. This is a vintage splash bottle. but I think this is still in circulation. It's a beautiful masculine. It's more like a chypre. Now, as I said, fougère is an extension of chypre. This one is honey, and it smells like fruit conserve. Very rich, very deep, and yet it's got that barbershop feel about it. So we've got thyme as a note, and there's also, I think, tolu balsam, if I'm not wrong. But it smells like a very deep, resinous, fruity barbershop fragrance. It's a fabulous fragrance. I mean, if you can get hold of the vintage, you are going to love this. It's a very special fragrance. Full review is available for you to check. This was number 9. Is again one of those fragrances which is a vintage. I've got a vintage bottle. The current formulation is quite good, but the vintage one is special. It is Monsieur Eau de Toilette Concentree by Chanel. Now, somebody on my channel once commented, I think it was on Instagram, somebody commented, this smells like barley. They're not wrong. This coconutty vibe about this fragrance, this slight coconutty smell, but there's no coconut listed. But this is again a barbershop scent. So it's got this bergamot, vetiver, orange, and it's just very fine, very classy, and very different smelling barbershop fragrance. And it's delivered in Chanel's style. And the best thing about this fragrance is so unique, so beautifully made, and yet superbly masculine. There's a rumor that Coco Chanel, made only one fragrance for men, and it was Monsieur, which was original was launched in 1951, I believe. So maybe it's true, I do not know. But I tell you what, I'm so lucky to have this Eau de Cologne Concentree. Sorry, Eau de Toilette Concentree. And this is a vintage bottle. The current version is equally nice. But I'll tell you what, I really, really enjoy this. I'll do a full review very soon. It's a very special barbershop fragrance, very different. Now, the next one on my list is a Guerlain. And you know, once Jean-Paul Guerlain was asked, what's a good fougère? To which he said, there are only two good fougères. And both were Guerlain. Monsieur, which is the next fragrance in the list, and Jiki. Now, Monsieur is supposed to be borrowing from Jiki. This was released in the 1890s, I believe. And this one, 1888. I can't remember when Jiki was released. It was very early. And this was released in 1904. I've reviewed this one. My review is the exclusive review on YouTube. You can check it out. And I don't think this is a proper barbershop scent. So I've left it out of my list. But that's what Jean-Paul Guerlain said. And Monsieur. This is very special. It's very different. It has iris. So lavender, orange, or bergamot, iris. I've done a full review. You can check it out. I can't remember the notes. But it smells like a very airy, slightly powdery because of iris, barbershop fragrance. Very, very special, very princely. It definitely smells very regal. So you have to check it out. This is obviously a current formulation, as you can see from the bottle, but I imagine the original one smelled very different. But that iris makes it very powdery. In daytime, it's not that powdery. So if you want to try something completely different, just like Monsieur, completely different take on barbershop fragrances, I highly recommend you try Guerlain Mouchoir de Monsieur. This is available quite widely, but there's a rumor going around that this has been discontinued. I'll be very surprised if this was discontinued, because this is the first masculine Guerlain made, 1904. So you can check out the full review if you're interested. I highly recommend you try this. Right, next on the list is again a Guerlain. It is a recent acquisition, and it's actually called L'Ame d'un Heroes. I hope I can capture the bottle name correctly. This is again a very expensive version of Guerlain. I can't remember exactly what part of the collection it's from, but this is again a vetiver, bergamot, lavender based fragrance, and this has got a very beautiful execution of tonka. Tonka is an essential component when it comes to fougères, and L'Ame d'un Heroes has that beautiful execution of tonka. It's compared to Coriolan, which is again a Guerlain affordable range fragrance, but I haven't smelled Coriolan. for me to tell you whether this is similar or not. What I will say is this is very mentholic. Again, very different barbershop fragrance, very mentholic, and it smells expensive and it's very airy. Just like Mouchoir de Monsieur, it's a very airy barbershop fragrance. It doesn't sort of overtake your senses, right? So, lame dun heroes. So we've done 5. We're going to move to a modern barbershop fragrance. In fact, the next 3 are modern. Now, this one is one of my most heavily and big compliment, heavily complimented fragrance, but big, heavy compliments. And it's a house that gets very little talk. And this fragrance is just superb. It is 1725 by Histoires De Parfums, Casanova. I think, in my opinion, this is one of the most amazingly made modern barbershop fragrance. So what does it have? It has lavender, vanilla, and almond, bitter almond. It's an experience to wear this fragrance. It's also very suede-like leathery texture. I've done a full review, you can check it out. It's got this leathery texture, suede-like texture. The only minus point about this fragrance is its lack of performance. It performs 4 to 5 hours, but those 4 to 5 hours you're going to smell like a prince. Absolutely beautiful. So, in my view, one of the most beautifully made barbershop fragrance of the modern times. And I've done a full review, and I've also compared it to one of the fragrances that it's compared to, and that is Invasion Barbare by MDCI. You can check that comparison video as well. So it's very highly rated, very well made, and from a house that produces really high quality niche fragrances. I almost thought I dropped it. So, as you can see, this list is sort of a mixture. I've got vintage, I've got designers, I've got niche. I wanted to create a very good list without discriminating. So that's why this list is looking like that. But these barbershop fragrances are one of the finest. So last 4 left. Next one on the list is from a house that I love this house. And it's a fragrance which is again a beautiful modern barbershop fragrance. It's Acqua di Parma, Colonia, Quercia. Quercia in Italian means oak. So here the emphasis is on oak moss. But the oak moss has been executed completely differently to how you would smell it in, let's say, Equipage. Yeah? Equipage has a very different oak moss. Monsieur has a beautiful oak moss. But this oak moss is completely different. And this is almost like a blue scent by Acqua di Parma. Almost smells as if it's full of ambroxan. Probably is full of ambroxan because it projects and it lasts a very long time. And in summertime, this is like a summertime beast mode fragrance. So it's got obviously oak moss. It has got geranium. It has got cardamom and I believe vetiver as well. But I can't remember all the notes. I have reviewed this one. You can check it out. But all I can tell you is if you're looking for a very professional, very smart, very beautifully made Italian style heavy hitter for summer, which is also a barbershop type scent, then try Quercia. It's a very professional scent. I absolutely adore this. It's beautifully made. So Quercia was number 4 in the list. Last 3. Next on the list is everybody's favorite. Everybody loves this fragrance, and this is an all year round fragrance. I have reviewed this one as well. It is by Christian Dior. It is Sauvage Parfum. This has been reformulated. I understand the latest version is also equally nice. And this is lavender, vetiver, but the amazing component in the discontinued version is myrrh. Now I understand that the current versions don't use myrrh, they use L Ame. So I imagine that to be a little bit more lemony. Now this one is very earthy, very resinous and thick, almost like a chypre. It's been executed like a chypre. And it's got this amazing feel about itself. It's a very confident scent, extremely professional, excellent value for money because you can wear this suited and tied, or you can wear this on a t-shirt and jeans. It will suit any season. I love wearing this in summer as well as winter because of that myrrh It's slightly more sweeter in winter, and it's been executed beautifully. It's one of the most finest Dior fragrances you can own, and still is. So that was number 3. I don't know what's wrong with my throat today. Next 2 fragrances in the list are 10 out of 10 fragrances. They are also not fougères, they're chypres, but they smell like barbershop fragrances. So number 2 is a very rare fragrance. So I will break some hearts because this is very hard to find. But you can get a modern version of this fragrance as well. It is Azuree, and I've got a pure parfum by Este Lauder. This was released in the 70s by S. Lauder and was created by the same guy who created Hermes Equipage. I think his name is Bernard Chant. This is my guilty pleasure. I love this bottle so much that, I've not used too much of it because I absolutely enjoy this fragrance. It's one of the most finest fragrances. I have a weak spot for chypres anyways. And I tell you, this was released for women. Don't get me wrong. This is more masculine than anything I've smelled in the current releases. So it's pretty masculine. And it can beat any Roja Dove chypre. I'm not kidding you. Obviously, this is a pure parfum. So it is extremely rich, very, very opulent, and beautifully made. And man, okay, so what are the notes? The notes are lavender, leather, oak moss, carnation, orange, vetiver, and I believe bergamot as well. The thing about this fragrance is its complexity. It smells sometimes like it's got some sweetness from orange, sometimes it's very bitter, sometimes it's very earthy. I think also has patchouli, so it's very earthy. It's really a fabulous fragrance. I have to do a full review of this fragrance, but this actually just takes over my senses. I enjoy doing this. I don't spray it too often because it's so rare and very difficult to find. I understand that the current version of Azuree is equally nice. I wouldn't imagine it to be as rich and opulent as this one. But give it a try. I think it's one of the most finest chypres that smells like a barbershop you could own. Azuree by Este Lauder. Very few people talk about this. It's a 10 out of 10 fragrance, hands down. So, I've spoken about this fragrance before. Do check it out, guys. This is one of the finest masculine chypres you can own. And it was released for women. Hats off to the women of the 70s. Next on the list is basically an art in a bottle. It's one of my most dearest possessions. It is a Guerlain. It is a chypre, and it is Derby by Guerlain. Now, if you followed me for a long time, you'll know that I rate this fragrance hugely, and it has appeared in many of my top 10 lists, this list, that list. But I tell you what, I haven't got a single fragrance in my collection for which I would say that I wouldn't part this fragrance for any money. If somebody came and told me that I'll give you £1,000, give me a bottle of Derby, I wouldn't. Because as it gets older, this bottle is quite old. As it gets older, it smells better and better and better and better. Again, it's a chypre and it contains a note of leather, just like Azuree. These two are leather chypres, but they have been executed in a barbershop style. So it has birch, leather, vetiver, I believe, bergamot, lemon. I can't remember exactly the notes, but this is very oily leather. And it smells different in different season. It will take over your senses. And once you smell this, you will know why Guerlain Derby is one of the highest rated masculine fragrances ever created. I speak to anybody, read any blog, you will know that Derby is one of the most highest rated masculines ever created. And there's a reason for that. It overtakes your senses. It's also very mentholic. Oily leather, but also very mentholic. That's why it creates that barbershop-like scent. So, I'm hoping you enjoyed this list. This list is very opulent, very diverse. It's one of the finest, because I like this classification so much, it contains one of the finest barbershop fragrances ever created. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you aspire to own any one of these, you will be rewarded. I'll do a part 2 very soon. Till then, bye-bye, and thanks for your support, guys. Really appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.